everyone, it's Alex, and today I'm here with my June TBR. I don't usually do TBRs just because for me, I work better just like reading off whenever I feel like at the time. Like, I don't decide the next book I'm going to read until I finish the current book that I'm reading. So, TBRs usually don't work for me super well, but I actually had a purpose with this TBR. I have 7 books here, and if you notice, they all have one thing in common. They all have bookmarks very near to the beginning, except for this top one. I have a very bad habit of starting books and then reading the first 5 to 20 pages and deciding this is not the book for me right now. I'll pick this up at a later date and read it then. But then I never pick the book up again because I've already started it. So in my head, I'm just like, let's go with something I haven't already seen yet. And then the pile grows and it grows. And it's just like, I read the first, 10 pages of most of these books, put them down, not necessarily because they were bad. It's usually just that this is a little bit heavier of a nonfiction that I don't feel like reading right now, or this seems kind of sad and I want something lighter, or this book seems like it's going to take more time than I want to put in right now. So I just put it down and then I never come back. So I decided to make a TBR of specifically those books because I have a problem with that. 7. I have 7. Well, I have 6 and then one that I sort of half DNF'd and just need to finish. I'll start with the odd one out because this is the actual problem book here. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. If you notice, I'm real close to the end. I was buddy reading this with Floor from Crazy Book Lady like a year and a half ago. She read it as we were scheduled to and really enjoyed it. And I read with her for a little while, and then I just flaked out on the entire world and disappeared, and I never finished it. I flaked out on the buddy read, but I didn't even finish the book. And I have less than 100 pages left? How many are in this book? 370. I'm on page 250. I have 120 pages left to read. I just need to finish this. I don't know why I haven't. It's a quick read. I wasn't enjoying it all that much. I had a lot of issues with it. I didn't think it was a very good book. Apparently contrary to the rest of book 2, but I do want to finish it. So yeah, this shouldn't take me very long. I could probably fly through this in an hour. I just haven't. The rest of these books are books that I will be reading from the beginning. They have bookmarks in them. I actually discovered this TBR that I was going to do because I was looking through my bookmark box. I use these as bookmarks. They're these cute little cards. This is the one I'm using right now. They're just cute little cards with quotes on the back. And I was using them and I was trying to, they're supposed to be 36 in here. And I was like, why do I have significantly less than 36? Because I should only be using 1 or 2 at a time. I was like, oh, this is why. But yeah, if you notice, there's a big gap of where I should have more, which was when I realized that I have a problem with doing this. So the next 6 books are books that I will be starting over from the beginning. I made different amounts of progress in all of them, but never more than 30 or 40 pages. Which one is this? Postmortem by Patricia Cornwell. Cornwell. This is the first in the K. Scarpetta books. I've heard a few people read about them, and she's from where I live. This book is set in Richmond, Virginia. So that's cool. And it's also based on a real serial killer from Richmond. Long time ago, before I was born. But which was interesting to me. But then as I was reading this book, I was like, oh no, because it's based on this serial killer, I actually know 2/3 of the twists and turns that are gonna happen because I know who this serial killer was, and I know why he was doing it, where he was from, and like what led the police to him. So it's based closely enough that like the twists and turns of the mystery I already know, but it's also like fictionalized enough that like the character of Kay Scarpetta, who's the coroner, I think, she's like completely fictionalized. It's like still worth reading, and I want to read more Patricia Cornwell. And since I have the first book, I want to start with the first book. I just kept putting it down because I was like, I know what's gonna happen. It's like not 100% of what's gonna happen, but like enough that it was kind of bugging me. But like I didn't make it very far, like not far enough to judge this book. So like I need to read it. Like I just need to like sit down and read it and then read another one of her books to actually see if I like her or not. It was just unfortunate that this is so close to a real serial killer from this city that I'm like familiar with because I read another book about him. So like I don't know. It was just like kind of an unfortunate turn of events for me, but I'm thinking like the more I read into this book, the less similar it's going to be to the real case, I'm hoping. And like it should still be worth it regardless. It's just, I don't know. That was what kind of turned me off. And then I have Refuge, An Unnatural History of Family and Place by Terry Tempest Williams. This is a nonfiction lyric essay book about a woman who is a naturalist. It dovetails her mother's cancer diagnosis and decline with a bird refuge in Utah, and it's about like the Great Salt Lake rising to record heights and like this migratory bird refuge, and the author is a poet and a naturalist, so it kind of like ties in all these elements together, and it's supposed to be really, really beautiful. And like I think I read the first page of this and then I just put it down and was like, I'm too tired for this right now. So I'm really looking forward to this. Like I'm really hoping this is one that I just like love, but I need to read it. So I'm just never gonna pick it up because I need to like force myself to read it because I feel like I'm really gonna enjoy like her writing style, because that's what I'm really looking forward to in this. It's just, I know it's gonna be a bit of effort because it's lyric essay, and I know I'm gonna have to like take my time with it, and I just get so lazy that I just haven't. Ordinary Men, Reserve Police Battalion 101, and The Final Solution in Poland by Christopher R. Browning. This is nonfiction about World War II. It's about this one regiment of Nazi officers who went to Poland and were basically in charge of controlling Poland and like killing thousands of Jews on their own. And it's about who they were as people and what happened and what drove like these very like normal seeming family men to do like mass murder, you know, and how like I think it's supposed to be like how anyone in that situation can kind of be driven to that almost. It's an interesting concept, and he wrote it mostly like from reports of the men who did the killing, because like what they were charged with was mass murder, so they didn't have a whole lot of victims to interview like the way the concentration camps did, kind of. And like really interesting concept, and I was really looking forward to reading it. And I started it, got a little bit in, and it was just kind of dry, like not bad, just like the writing style and the information was presented in kind of a dry way that I was struggling with at the time, so I took a break from it and then never went back. I was how far into this one? 18 pages. Clearly I read enough to be able to judge this book, but I do really am looking forward to reading this because it's fascinating information. And even if the whole book is dry, which like I'm not convinced it will be, I think like maybe the beginning bit of it was dry and it probably like got easier to read as you got into it, I still just like, I don't know, it's just a fascinating subject. Committing Journalism, The Prison Writings of Red Hawk by Dannie N. Martin and Peter Y. Sussman. This is more nonfiction. It's a book of journalism by Dannie N. Martin. He was a bank robber who wound up being arrested and just going to prison for a long time. And in prison, he started writing journalism articles that were published in the San Francisco Chronicle. Yeah. And just like about like hard-hitting topics. Like he discussed racism, he discussed healthcare, a lot of things about prison and like what life in prison was like, and eventually it got so bad that the prison board of directors tried to silence him and like stuck him in solitary and like took away his contacts. And it's like, this is just a collection of like his writings, and like really fascinating. I read the first one, two, I read a few, and really interesting. It's just because it was essays, it was kind of easy to like put it down and then not come back. But like really fascinating subject. And this is also an annotated book. You can see like the little tabby tabs. I was trying to see if there was like, oh yeah, you can see people wrote like notes in it, which I love. I love picking up used books that do that. But it's just like fascinating. I love journalism and I love reading journalism books. This was just one that like I was so stoked for, and then just like never actually wound up reading. So poor decisions on my part, but like in June I'll ideally be getting through this. And then one that I really struggled with, that I actually did put down because I thought it was trash, Sword of Destiny by Andrzej Sapkowski. I don't like The Witcher. I know like everyone on BookTube talks about how great it is, but like I read The Last Wish and I really hated it. Like it was one of the worst books that I read the year that I read it, which was like a year or two ago or something. Like garbage book. I just hated it so much. But I promised myself when I started them that I was going to read at bare minimum the 2 short story collections and the first novel. And if I still didn't like them then I could give it up. And I started the second short story collection. I was like, maybe this one will be better. And it wasn't. Like, it was the same. I started reading and I was like, oh god, no. And then I just put it down. But like, I do want to keep that promise to myself. I do want to at least get to the first novel before I DNF this series. Like, it would just bother me not to. So I want to force my way through this and then see if the novel is maybe better than the short story collections. But I'm going to force my way through it this month. And then the final book that I have to read in June is Green Suede Shoes by Larry Kirwan. He was the lead singer of the band Black 47, which I never listened to. I'm not really sure why I picked up this book to begin with, but I did. And then I started reading it and it was like really interesting. But I picked it up for a readathon years and years ago. Like back like in my early BookTube days, I think. And the problem is the chapters are really short, like only a couple of pages. And at the beginning of every chapter, he has the lyrics to one of his songs. And because I was not super familiar with his music, I wanted to listen to the song at the beginning of every chapter, which adds a whole lot of effort and time to reading this book. And it does add like that level of interruption. But like that's what I wanted to do when I read it. Like he included the song lyrics. I wanted to like hear the song and hear the lyrics in context. I think it would like enhance my experience of this book. And just knowing that I wanted to do that, I'm lazy and I just didn't want to do it. So I just never picked it up again. But like the little bit that I read at the beginning, I did really enjoy. Like I thought it was really interesting and well done, and I wanted to read more about Larry Kirwan and who he was. And like I don't know anything about Black 47. To be honest, had never heard of them. I don't know why I picked up this book, but I was enjoying it. I was just lazy and didn't really feel like listening to so much music while reading. So I'm gonna be doing that still in June. I need to like set aside time to do it, because it means like I can't really read this book on my lunch break at work the way I read books a lot, because I do have to be home. I do have to have Wi-Fi in order to look up the songs. But yeah, that's kind of the reason that I put this down and why I haven't ever picked it up. But I've always wanted to. Like I've always wanted to go back to this, and I keep like thinking about going back to it, and then I just like haven't. So those would be the 7 books that I plan to read in June. Hopefully I'll actually get through all of them this month. I may also read other things. I may not get through all of them, but like if I at least finish 5 out of 7, I'll feel good about myself. So Let me know down below what you're planning to read in June, if you've read any of these. Thank you, Spleen. And as always, I will see y'all again soon.